Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to It's More Than Just Dating podcast. I am your host, Marquise Johnson, and welcome back for part two. On this podcast, we keep it real. We talk about real life topics and events that people have been through. And our hope is to provide useful information that gives you wisdom and knowledge to have a flourishing relationship. So that is our goal for today. I'm excited for today. Y'all are in store for some amazing stuff. Well, first, I wanted to give you guys a gem of the day. I feel like, this gem is something that's been amazing, has impacted my life, and, I'm hoping that it would impact your life. And the gem of the day is you may not be perfect, but you're perfect for somebody, and someone's perfect for you. And to just dive a little more into that gem, the beautiful thing about love allows us to see someone see someone actually perfect. And that's the beautiful thing because we love their flaws. We love exactly who they are. We don't want anything to change. And so true love sees perfection. It's not perfection brings true love. So that is the gem of the day. Put that in your front pocket, not your back pocket. Front pocket, easy access. Pull it out. Boop. There it is. Okay, so first off, man, let me welcome my good brother, Jawan Glenn. This guy is a relationship expert, as they say.
Oh, wow.
They say he's an
Wow, I
expert,
appreciate
but
that.
he's an amazing husband. He's an amazing
you.
father. He's
Thank
a
you.
pastor also.
Thank you.
Jawan, tell us a little more about yourself, bro.
Yeah. First of all, I'm honored to be here. Like that's crazy. This is awesome. You guys can't see this, but it's just like what they have set up here is phenomenal. I've been in ministry for a long time, and it's funny for as long as I've known you, Marquise. Like every time I feel like we talk, it's about either being single, not being single, who we gonna marry, now that we marry. Like it's always just been our talk. It's like the first thing we say is like, hey, what's up? Hey, I know Marty, you know Marty, that's my brother. Okay, what's up? So you single, I'm single, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Like that was like
You
our
got to.
first
That's
conversation, man.
yeah.
But I've been in ministry for a while. I go to a church called Paradox, fantastic church. Me and my wife, I'm one of the elders there, and me and my wife lead with worship, and I speak at different places. Even this year, I've married 4 people, man.
Wow.
And I don't know if you want to talk about the class now or
Oh,
later.
yeah. Tell us about the class, bro.
Yeah, so me and my wife, there's a class called Merge. It's through a church called Watermark. They have this awesome set of resources and material that me and my wife go through with seriously dating couples, engaged couples, and couples who've been married maybe in that first year to 2. And it's like an 8-week course where we go through all types of topics from finances to communication to in-laws to sex. And we just explain biblically, right? Like what are some ways to handle that so that you can have a fruitful and healthy relationship that's going to last. So
Wow.
I'm coming from a place of somebody who's married people, who's talked to people about relationships, couples, who's done counseling with couples. I'm not just like some guy who watched a few YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm coming from, and I don't mean that pridefully, right? I'm just saying like, I'm going to talk about what I know and what I don't know. You ain't going to hear it from me.
Perfect. So, welcome, Jawan Glenn, man. We
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you,
So, everybody definitely had something to say about the list, which is so funny. So we're doing a continuation of it. This would be the last portion of it. We're gonna fully dissect it. So with the list, so first off, let me give you guys just a little background history while I'm bringing up the list with Jawan. So as far as all the bros knew, Jawan had the strictest list known to mankind. Like there was no way possible anybody was making the cut. Like, I mean, I don't even know. Like it was
funny.
impossible. In so much, Jawan gonna hate when I say this. In so much, y'all, a girl, she did not make the cut because her toes wasn't well.
That's still funny, man.
The toes.
That is so funny.
So, I mean, I'm not saying this. He's not saying this. But ladies, it might be something important about taking care of those toes. It
I'm
might
gonna get in
be.
so much trouble for this, man. I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
There might be something
That is
important about
funny.
it. But nevertheless, what I really want to ask you is, so I know that you've been. How long have you been married?
Yeah, this will be pretty much 3.5 years now.
So 3.5 years. You've been married, and it looks very successful. You guys
Thank you.
look like great partners for sure.
Thank you.
So my
Thank
question is, what I want to ask you is, like, did you marry your wife because she checked everything in your list, or what led you to choosing your wife? Like, why did you choose her?
Yeah. Well, let me answer the first part of that because I know the moment a guy uses the word list, like I can hear on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram when people listen to this or watch it, like ladies having this like collective groan of like, oh, this pious, this stuck up, whatever guy has a list. Like
Yeah.
I'm God's gift to women. Like, how dare
Yeah.
he have a list? And before you get there and stone me in the comments, I had a list. I've matured, and I actually, before I kind of go deeper into that, I want to explain this too. We all have a list.
Okay.
We can sit here and act like we don't, and just go, I don't really care what comes through the door. I want to marry it. It's not true.
True.
It's just not true, right?
True.
Everybody has some kind of list of things that they care about. Some more superficial than others. Mine, when I look back, was extremely superficial. Ladies who are watching this and guys who are watching this, it's just a fact. Guys are visual. I'm sorry. It's just true. Like, men are visual.
Yeah.
And not that women aren't, but like guys are visual. It's something that's important to us. No, in the grand scheme of things and the big picture of marriage and relationships, no. Physical looks do not hold that much weight, but we do care about what people look like, the way they dress, smell, list goes on, right? But yeah, I did have a list. And in regards to if my wife met the requirements of that list, we get so much trouble. Okay. The list that I had, not only did my wife meet the requirements on my list,
Okay.
there were things that I was in the immaturity of my mind back then that I didn't even know to put on the list that my wife has superseded. So let me just get that out there. Whatever sad excuse for a list I'd had, not only did my wife supersede everything on there, but there was things that I didn't even know I needed until things got rough.
Wow.
Until there was weaknesses I saw in myself. And seeing my wife be the MVP, which for those who don't know just means most valuable player, right? In our relationship, and superseded that. But yeah, oh man, yeah, whatever was on my list, she is that and even much more. Wow. And honestly, when I look back on my list, most of the strictness of it, and the fellas know me, like Marquise, we hang around the same dudes. Most of it was physical. But the Bible says beauty is like vain, right? And essentially, it's not that beauty isn't important, but in the grand scheme of things, looks will not always remain. True. And if the thing that attracts me to you is simply just the way you look, it won't last as you get older. You've heard this said a million times from alleged, relationship gurus or whatever weird terms people give themselves, but the person you married at the beginning is not going to be the same person you marry towards the end. And if it's physicality that has brought you together, it's going to be physicality that's going to have to keep you, but physicality doesn't last. Your looks will not remain the same.
Yeah.
Things are going to change, right? And I know some people are like, well, I don't care. I just want what's now. But that's not true. Like, you're going to really see what somebody actually looks like at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're going to find out, like, who this person is. And and there were some things on the list, and I won't, belabor this too long, but, like, there's some things on the list that I wanted somebody who didn't have, like, who wore tons of makeup, right?
Yeah.
To the point, I feel like makeup, and I'm talking as a guy, so I can't speak for women, right? I'm just saying what I felt, right? This is Juwan here. That makeup should enhance, not transform.
Yes, Sirski.
Okay? And I've seen some situations where people look like totally different human beings.
Yeah.
Then they put like a Instagram filter, and so they add technology on top of that, and they turn into mannequins, bro. Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
And for me, I was hoping, and it was a list I hoped for, that I would get somebody who wasn't raptured in that kind of stuff. Not that I'm against anybody who wears makeup, or if somebody feels like, for me, I need to wear a lot of makeup. That's okay. I love you. God loves you. Like, it's all right. But that's kind of what I desired. And again, my wife doesn't need to wear anything, bro. She's just so beautiful.
That's
but when
good.
she does, I'm like, wow, wow, this is only enhancing what I already know to be true about how beautiful you are. So
Yeah.
yeah, it lists, but
Yeah. So what led you to marrying her then?
I'll say this, and I'll kind of use the list as an example. Like I said, we all have a list in some way, shape, or form. You want somebody to be faithful, somebody who's going to love you, and for me, obviously, somebody who loves God, somebody who is serious about the gospel. That's for me as a believer, right?
Yeah.
For me, that was something that was really serious for me, and that's what I found in my wife. First of all,
Yeah.
that being said, I would be lying to you, bro, if I didn't say that I think my wife is the most beautiful human being on the planet. And that's like statistically a fact. Like studies show, you can't argue with studies, right?
I feel that.
Studies show my wife is the most beautiful woman on the planet. But honestly, I think it was a mixture of both. Obviously, visually, you see somebody, I saw her, I was like, man, like she's beautiful, but like her soul and her personality, like my wife is genuinely nice. I don't mean that in like you just giving somebody roses or whatever like that because they're not here. I mean, like something bad will happen. I go, man, that person's a jerk. And my wife will go, they might have been having a bad day. I'm like, are you nuts?
Right.
That person's horrible. Like, no, maybe they, and she's immediately going glass half full. I'm going glass half empty. Just having that to make me like a better believer, right? And just like better on the inside. She has all of that. Like I said, we had, I met her at a tent revival in Detroit. I still had my Postal clothes on, and we did some worship together and led music together for a while. And it was one of those things, and I'll say this because I don't want to hold this question too long. There's a guy named Dorian Harvey, a good friend of mine, and I asked him, I said, how do you know like who the one is? And I know people are going to give you different answers. Not that there's like a one, but like how do you know this is somebody like that might be the one you want to marry? And he says something really interesting. He says, when this particular lady comes into focus and everybody else you thought you were interested in, everybody else you thought you liked begins to fade into the background. And this person, like God, like highlights this person to where you really can't even see anybody else but them. And that's exactly what I saw in my wife. I'm like, everybody else I thought I was like, oh, she's cute or she's nice or man, I love the way she speaks.
Wow.
It just started fading in the background and she just started coming more into focus.
Yeah.
And it became immediately clear that nobody else could lay a candle well, she wasn't my wife then, but lay a candle to Jessica, right?
Wow.
And that was that. I mean, I could go on all day. Man, if this whole podcast would be an hour if I talked about how reasons why I want to marry my wife.
Yeah, no,
it's a Santa Claus list of stuff. You know what I'm saying?
But for sure. And you trying to get your brownie points too.
Right, yeah, exactly. She might be watching this and I don't, the couch is cold. I don't want to sleep. You get the idea.
Right, for sure. Okay, man. So, you were one of the few guys that I personally knew that actually was able to hold on to their purity all the way up until marriage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a really big thing because, like, growing up for me, even, being a Christian, you're always taught to not have sex, right? Mm-hmm. And to not do it, right? Mm-hmm. And you're taught a whole lot of other sins you're not supposed to do, but it wasn't really taught the value of that purity, right? Like, wow, I have something that's so valuable versus, oh, man, I just don't want to, sin. Yeah. So, man, how did purity impact your life for marriage?
Yeah, well, let me just start off by saying there are a lot of people who are watching this who are not virgins, right, who did not wait till marriage. And what I'm saying and speaking about my life is not in a way to make anybody feel bad or shameful. I'm not trying to lower the standard. Like I believe as a Christian, God's word is very clear about what purity looks like and where sex play should be within a marriage between a man and a woman. Like, that hasn't changed, right? Very clearly outlined. So anybody who hears what I have to say for my life, I don't want you to feel like, well, that's not my story. So you're saying you're better than me? No, not at all. I'm just saying, I'll say like this is a guy named Pastor Ken. He pastors a church called Crossover in Southfield. Fantastic church. And one of the things he said one Sunday, I had to lead worship there. He said, I want my kids to have the most boring testimony of all time. I want them to come up here 20, 30 years from now and when I've been serving God my whole life. And that's it. That's it. And I don't know why people feel like their life has to be this epic, fast and furious adventure of, I did drugs and I did this and sold my body. And then eventually I can't, no, just don't do anything. Like, just don't get off the boat. I was drowning. And then eventually the Lord reached down and grabbed me up. And no, just don't get off the boat, bruh. Like, I don't understand. Again, and I'm not judging anybody for, we've all made choices. There's choices in my life I could have made better, right? But it's one of those things like the purpose of somebody else's testimony and struggles they've went through so that I don't do the same thing or have to go through that. They've lived through it. I can learn from somebody else's mistakes. So anyways, all that being said, yes, I was a virgin all the way to marriage, and so was my wife.
Amazing. Wow.
But here's the thing. You say, wow, but it shouldn't even be a wow, right? It should be like
it shouldn't be, but you got to think
the society we live in.
It's not even, I think really what it boils down to is, like, I think this talk is really needed. So for even those that did not, keep their virginity, but now they desire to walk in a pure way, I feel like this talk is going to even be able to encourage them even more.
Yeah.
From this point on of continuing walking until that day of marriage, because I believe that purity will definitely impact the way that people view stuff, you know? So definitely.
Well, it's just, to that extent of purity should be the new normal. Like wearing a mask is the new normal. Unfortunately, purity should be something that, and here's the thing, nobody has children. Like I'm a father, right? I got a daughter, I got a son. Nobody goes in having kids hoping that their kids are going to be sexually promiscuous, right? Like, no, that's not the plan at all for anybody. I hope not for a parent that wouldn't be the plan for their kids. But our desire for them is to save that for the one, right, that they're going to be married to, right? That essentially, right? Again, I'm sure there's people watching this who maybe don't know God and they're like, well, that's not my plan. But for me as a parent, that's the objective, right? That my children would save that special thing for the person that they are in covenant with, right? And for me, walking in purity has tremendously impacted my life because it gives weight and authority to what I have to say in regards to it. I'm not on stage talking about something that I'm not actually living out. How many people, I talk to a lot of people about God. I love atheists, right? I'm always talking to them all the time about God and science and just certain things that have built my faith in the validity of Scripture, right, and the history of it, and I'm always just talking to them and trying to get some facts about certain things, and as I'm thinking about walking in purity, it's just a fact that nobody is married to somebody and they're like, man, I wish you would have slept with more people. Like nobody ever says that.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Nobody's ever like, man, I wish my spouse would have just slept with a few more guys. Yeah. That would have really helped us to get, no. If anything, it's this idea of I wish that would have been something or something that saved for me. And even, as you mentioned before, somebody who maybe is not a virgin, right, or has lived a very promiscuous life, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that you have to carry that shame everywhere you go. Like you can be free for that. But for me and walking in purity, when I talk about it, people can look at me and go, it's real, it's genuine, right? I have that authority to speak into it. It would be no different than somebody trying to talk to you about how to, cook food and they don't cook. Or talk to you about raising kids, but they're not involved in their kids' life, right? Like as a minister, right? People are expecting me to practice what I preach. And I think it's just helped me a lot for people to trust me, right? They can know when they're getting advice from me, when they're talking to me, that I'm coming from a place that I'm actually, living this thing out. And I don't mean that as I'm perfect, right? I've been very open about in the past how I struggled with pornography, right? And different things like that. And how that was a huge constricting thing in my life, right? That God delivered me from. But me walking in purity has impacted my life because when I do go on stage and I grab the microphone, I'm not there. It's real. I'm telling you about what I'm living. And it's also hope for a lot of parents, for their young ones, like who are raising their kids up, because essentially the idea nowadays is nobody's a virgin. Like there's like a bunch of movies about how strange it is to be a virgin. Like how weird is that, right? True. Versus it being like, no, this is something that we want to applaud. We want to celebrate. I mean, in some cases, being a virgin is like frowned upon. But me walking in purity in that way has opened up a lot of doors for me. And I can tell you right now, and my wife isn't here, she can speak for herself, but my wife will tell you that she's thankful that I hadn't been out here just Papa was a Rolling Stone kind of thing, because there's consequences to that. Like sex, and I'll kind of go into more of this a little bit later, but sex is not just physical, it's spiritual. A perfect example of that would be if you found out a guy had physically assaulted a woman, you go, man, that's terrible. They should lock him up, right? But if I said the same scenario and said this guy sexually assaulted a woman, you go, you should put him underneath the jail. What's the difference? They're both physical. But there's something spiritual, there's something intimate, personal, sacred about whenever sex is brought into something, right? And I didn't get this from myself, but it's the last thing I'll say on it. Why I think purity has impacted my life. It's made me closer to the people around me. It's made me closer to God. But sex is like fire. If you keep the fire in the fireplace, it will warm the house. If you take that fire and put it anywhere else in the house, it's going to burn the house down. Purity is something to be held sacred, and when it's not, and it's used, and it's not taken seriously, destruction is not too far behind, if that makes sense. So it's impacted my life. I'll never be on my deathbed and go, man, I wish I would have slept with more people. Nobody says that. Like, nobody goes, I wish I would have been more promiscuous. If anything, you would say, I wish that I could have lived a more pure life. And thankfully, thanks be to God, I do have the ability to have that testimony. But it's impacted my life and my marriage in a very positive way.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm talking to a lot of people that have kept their purity, a lot of things that I come across is they say that they can properly see their wife the right way. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's definitely something important, to be able to view your wife as, something very sacred, something very valuable, something, that isn't just, it doesn't have a lot of value that you can go get you another wife. And, talking to those guys, they always told me that purity for them has allowed them to value their wife so much that they've learned how to die to their self a lot in that relationship, to make sure that they're just continually just honoring their wives. And I think that that's, something amazing.
And I just to add on to what you're saying, I don't believe there's any guys out there, right, looking for a wife and are hoping that she's just been with everybody and done everything. Like, nobody, again, we talk about the mysterious list, right? If you want to be honest, people are hoping that that's not the case, right? Even for women, they're not hoping that their men have been out here just with any and everybody, right? Because it's such a sacred thing. But again, that shouldn't be a place of shame for somebody who has come out of that. Because I don't want it to come across as if, like, because there's a standard, right, of walking in purity, that anybody who hasn't is hopeless, right? Or that's it, you're used goods. That's a lie from the pit of hell. God can take a person, right, regardless of what they've done, and make them new, right?
For sure.
And like you said, for those who are now maybe walking in purity, now maybe they weren't in the past, but now they are walking in purity, there is a hope to that, and I guarantee your relationship will benefit from that, and that's a fact.
No, I agree. I mean, and to be honest, just to, be a little more vulnerable, on this podcast, because our whole hope for this podcast is, that people could, be set free and really know that it's actually a certain perspective or mindset that you can actually have versus maybe you may not be as happy with the perspective or the mindset that you have currently. So the reason, another reason why I wanted to make sure I brought Jawan on is Jawan, he was able to pretty much keep his purity, and me growing up, I wasn't able to. And I don't fault anyone at it, for that, because I'm a man and I've understood to grow and to gain more wisdom and knowledge. But for me, one of the most important things that now is I understand the value of it. I didn't try to keep it because I didn't understand the value. And I think that if you have anything in life and you don't know the value of it, you'll give it away.
Yeah, that's good.
You'll give it away. I mean,
good, man.
People could easily tell you that what you have is worth the world, but if you don't actually believe that, and if you don't actually know that, you won't treat that thing as if that's really the world. And so for me, I didn't grow up, treating, my purity with that value that it was the world, and that, man, this is a gift that I get to give to my wife, which now I desire. Like, man, I wish that I had that gift to be able to give to my wife. But I will say, with my life being transformed by Christ and him giving me a new lens, right? My lens is so different, because the way that I used to view women and the way that I view women now is totally different.
Wow.
And because of that, I'm looking to honor women.
Come on.
I'm not looking to use them. I'm not looking for what I can get out of it.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at, how can I honor her?
Yeah.
If this is a person that I don't believe that when we do relationship that I'll be able to honor her, let me make sure that, because I honor women so much now, because I'm understanding that they're God's daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a totally different perspective.
It's a totally different perspective.
When you go, first of all, that's God's daughter, right? And in a practical sense, that's somebody's daughter, right? Actual daughter. That's somebody's sister. That could be somebody's mother. That's somebody's cousin. Like it's not. It's a problem that many men have, and we can speak on this as men, breaking out of just seeing women. And this is going to sound so 90s, but just seeing women as a piece of meat, and just going like, this is what you are.
Yeah.
And that's really, when you think about people who struggle with pornography, that's what it is. You have no connection with this person on the screen. You are just here for a moment of brief satisfaction. And then when that's over, I close the screen. I'm done with you. I have no connection there.
But let me ask you this, because you know what? I didn't even plan on talking about this, but I think this is a great moment to dive a little more into that, because I think that a lot of people struggle with pornography.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. For when people is indulging into pornography, what does it do to them spiritually? Because I think people don't know the spiritual side, right? Of why do they feel a certain way after they do it? I want you to speak to what it actually do to the spirit side of it.
Yeah. So let me say this. This is interesting. I don't think anybody has ever watched pornography and afterwards felt good about themselves, right? Hey, let me go write a book. You know what I'm saying? No, like, after you engage in that, you feel terrible, right? Yeah. You feel dirty. You feel unclean. You do feel shame. Nobody's ever been watching it and the door flies open and they're like, hey, come on in. No, it's like, oh, close it, hide. Like, it's like Adam, Eve eating the fruit. And as soon as they ate it, they're like, yo, we got to put some clothes. It's a place of shame. And just because I've been doing just a little bit of, not trying to be woke or nothing like that, but just been doing a lot more research on like sex trafficking and looking at a lot of what these women go through. It's a terrible thing. And there's a reason why God tells us that we don't want to be looking at women in that way, because the Bible says when you look at a woman with lust in your heart, you've already committed adultery with her, right? You are in some way deteriorating your body, your spirit, man. You're creating a static. The sin creates a gap between you and God, right? You're not able to hear as clearly, see as clearly. And I'm going to get scientific about it. A lot of people don't tell you this, and whoever's watching this, listen closely. Listen closely. This is for guys and women. When you are watching pornography and you are, and forgive me for being more okay, and you are touching yourself, right? What happens if you're not careful, especially for men, you begin to train yourself to only be aroused by your own physical touch.
Wow.
And now you're finally encountered that special woman. You're finally with the lady that you want, and she touches you and nothing happens.
Wow.
Erectile dysfunction in many cases is tied to people who struggle with pornography, because now you physically, it's like Pavlov's, experiment, right? You see food, you salivate, right? It's kind of like this thing, you kind of train your body in a certain kind of way, and now you've trained yourself to only be sexually aroused by yourself.
Yeah.
And now you can no longer really fully sexually engage with your wife or your husband, because you've trained yourself to only be able to please yourself.
Yeah.
And pornography is really a selfish act, right? It's just you. It's not the beauty that comes with sex that you can only experience in a marriage with your spouse, where you're not serving yourself, but you're serving them.
Yeah.
That's the true, like, when you think about sex in a marriage, the proper way, the most enjoyable way to experience it is that I'm doing everything I can in that time that I'm with my wife intimately to please her. But watch this. She's doing everything she can in that amount of time to please me. And it creates this beautiful, harmonious thing that we're not just having sex, we're making love, right?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get mine. She's not trying to get hers. We're serving the other person. And I could go deeper into that, but people don't know there are some physical ramifications, right, for indulging in pornography that psychologically will mess you up.
Yeah.
And we really got to be careful about that. And watch this. And I'll talk about this more later on about the practicals of walking in purity. I can't watch everything.
Yeah.
I can't watch every movie.
Yeah.
People say I'm grown. I can watch whatever I want. I'm at the age now where I can handle it. No, you're not. No, you're not. I can't watch. I can't listen to everything. I watch anime. Sorry. I don't know if that gets me kicked out the church or not.
Oh
but,
my God.
I watch anime. There's some anime I can't watch it.
Yeah.
It's just too. There's just like scenes that's just too perverted.
Yeah.
And I know my past and I know my triggers. You have to know your triggers.
You have to be honest with yourself.
Exactly. And I can't engage in those things no more because it's going to help. It's going to draw me back to a place of bondage that God has set me free from. So I could go deeper into it, but yes, there's spiritual ramifications. There's also serious physical ramifications for consistent indulgence in pornography.
So, and I actually kind of wanted to give everybody kind of like this is going to be another sidebar gem. And like I said, I don't mind being, pretty much transparent because I started this podcast so, we could really do life, freedom, do relationship with the person we're supposed to and, honor our partners correctly.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think I might have been listening to, I don't know, it was a sermon, but he said this and it really changed my life. And this is already after I've given my life to Christ. I'm already seeing his transforming power in my life. I'm starting to no longer have this desire for pornography and, he's really doing it. I'm just seeking him, but he's really doing all the work.
Yeah.
And I remember I was listening to this sermon, and I bring this up because you were talking about certain TV shows you can't watch and certain music. And so this isn't to tell anyone you need to stop looking at this or you need to stop listening to this. But if you are struggling, then this you may, and if you actually desire to walk in purity, then this may be something that you kind of want to have food for thought. So I was listening to this sermon, and he said in the book of Genesis, the devil started off as a snake. And I was like, all right, yeah, cool. It was good. Okay. He said, when you get to Revelations, the devil was a dragon. So I'm like, all right, yeah, he was. He said, somebody was feeding him the whole time. And I was like, whoa. And he was like, the problem is we want to be free from pornography. We want to be free from lust and all of these things, right?
Of course.
And he says what happened is that TV show, right? That was a little snack. That song you keep replaying was a little snack.
Yeah.
And you just been feeding that lust, that desire more and more and more.
Yeah.
And he said, then once it get to the point that now the lust has become so strong you can taste it.
Wow.
He said, you're not about to resist that.
No.
He said you fed it.
Yeah.
You made it strong. You were working that thing out. And now it came to a place that when you wanted to try to fight it, I mean, you raised it up to overcome you. So my gem for everybody that do desire to walk in purity, from this point on, or if you are struggling, I would say be very mindful what you look at and what you listen to. And the way that you kind of start to determine that is you have to be more mindful. What are you feeling like after a show? Yeah. What are you thinking about after, a certain song? And it just keep trickling. And the bad thing about it is you start to sexualize every person that you see.
And everything, right. And now it becomes like we see in society now where sex is God. You can't have a song. You can't have a movie. It is God in this country. And nobody wants to give up that idol. Nobody wants to give up their God. And you said something really, I'm sorry, you're just saying some good stuff, man. I mean, no surprise, but you're just saying some really powerful stuff. But like, when you look at the Bible in regards to sin, and this is nothing new, right? You've heard this a million times. We fight against sin consistently, right? And not that the Bible is just a book of rules. There's so much more to the Bible than that, right? 66 books, 40 different authors in 3 different continents, 3 different languages. I mean, there's so much here, from poetry to apocalyptic books to dietary. There's all types of stuff, right? But when you think about how the Bible talks about sin and things of that nature, you fight all types of sin, but with lust you run. You don't fight it, really, right? It's a losing battle, right? For most, if not all. It's something that the Bible says you flee from. You get your shoes on and you run, because if you try to fight it, there's a strong chance in most cases you're going to lose.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I'm just like really honing in onto this question. What are some struggles would you say that when it comes to actual couples practicing purity and even desiring purity, what are some struggles that they could run into, and what is some ways that they can overcome those struggles if they desire to walk in purity?
Yeah, so I can only speak about what I know and what me and my wife did. I think this is extremely important. It'll be a blessing to everybody. You got to have a curfew.
Come on now.
I'm going to just get practical. Can I just get practical?
Bro, we need practicality.
If you are in a serious dating relationship, you need some boundaries. You need a curfew. I'm sorry. I get it. I can already hear people going, but I'm grown and I'm mature. And I'm not a kid anymore. I don't need a curfew. What are you talking about? And here's the thing. The older I get, the more boundaries I realize I need to set for myself.
Yes, sir.
It's not this prideful mindset of I'm grown, I'm an adult, I'm just going to do whatever, however, whenever. No. Quite the opposite. The older I get, the more boundaries I need to have for myself, right? Because I'm easy to get set in my ways. And for me and my wife, we had a curfew. After a certain point, and whatever that is for you, I can't tell you what that is. That's up between you and your wise counsel around you, your friends, your trusted advisors, your pastor, whatever, or you and that particular individual. At like 11 o'clock, I was out. I was gone. And sometimes 10:30, I had to leave. You know why? Because your greatest enemy is not the devil. He's definitely one of them, if not one of the top ones. Your greatest enemy is going to be yourself. A perfect example of this, and this might make you laugh, but it's true. You tell yourself, I'm going to eat a salad. I'm going to eat a salad. I'm about to eat a salad. Man, you just watch some Instagram video of some guy doing 15 push-ups and you can only do 12. Man, I'm about to eat a salad. I'm about to eat a salad. You pull up to Wendy's. I'm about to eat a salad. I'm about to eat a salad, and I'm going to really do it right. Not ranch, vinaigrette. I'm going to really watch it, right? And I'm going to get a water, right? Yeah. And the lady goes, how can I help you today, sir? You say, let me get a double cheeseburger with a large fry, and then you say, and a Diet Coke. To kind of, take off some of the guilt. You can't trust yourself. Like, trusting yourself, I know Disney says to believe in your heart, and all these other movies are saying trust yourself, trust your gut. No, trust God. Every time you trust yourself, you're going to leave disappointed. You cannot trust your spouse either. I don't mean, okay, hear me out. I got to always add a caveat. Right, let me clear that up, right.
Clear it up.
Man, I can hear the comments now, right? I'm not saying you cannot trust people, but you don't put your trust in people. You don't put your trust in a pastor. You don't put it in the government, in a politician, anything. We put our trust in God. Why? Because God is the only one who's unchanging, consistent, who is always going to be the same today, tomorrow, and forevermore. We change. I feel different some days. Sometimes I want to eat burgers. Sometimes I get a taste for pizza. Our emotions, our mind is constantly moving, and over time, it's changing. For the practicality of a healthy, pure relationship, there's got to be boundaries, right? There's certain parts of the body you don't touch. And I know you may say, well, wait a minute. We can't really tell people what to do. I'm going to kind of be more authoritative in this. I shouldn't be feeling all over your chest if we're not married. I'm sorry. Somebody might disagree with that. I shouldn't have my shirt off, your shirt off, and we rubbing and grinding and all because it's only a matter of time. I'm feeding that snake that's going to be a dragon, right? I'm feeding the thing. It's like our appetites. Our appetites say, "Feed me, so I can destroy you." You just keep feeding it and keep feeding it, and it's like, no, I love you so much. I am willing to share this moment with you after I've made a complete covenant with you. And I don't want to spoil that because there is something so unique and special, even for those who've already had sex already.
Yeah.
There's something so important in that new relationship,
sure.
walking in purity and experiencing that moment with that person on the wedding day. And here's the thing, God is the one who created sex, not us. It's good. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's a good thing. And if he says, look, I got the whole landscape. I made sex. It is better to be experienced in this way. I'm going to take his word for it.
Yeah.
Not Oprah or anybody else. I'm or the red table talk. Sorry, that's absolute garbage, and that's French for garbage. Like I'm not going to take the world's advice on sexuality and healthy relationships. I'm going to trust God, the one who knows all, and I can guarantee you again, nobody is going to leave embarrassed, disappointed, let down, led astray by walking in purity all the way to that wedding night.
Okay, cool. So you know what? Let's do a twist real quick.
Sure.
So I know that we have people listening that do not know the value of marriage or even what successful marriages are built on, and so a lot of people that's even listening to this podcast, they don't value marriage, and I understand them. I'm not saying that I don't value marriage. I definitely value marriage, and I can understand why they don't. Is because they've probably was raised in a household that if their parents was married and they did stay married, it wasn't something beautiful. It wasn't something honorable. Yeah. And also for those that grew up in a single parent house, you know, they didn't see that team work or that selflessness or that, you know, surrenderance and leadership, you know, things that you should see in a marriage. And I also want to be able to speak to those people because my heart is for them too. Definitely want them to be able to know the value of marriage, but also understanding how to build a successful marriage and what not to build it on, even for believers that may grew up in, you know, a household and it wasn't the best, you know, I guess you could say representation of marriage that you would want to see. So my question to you is, what are some myths that people actually do build their marriage on, believing that it's going to be successful, but it's actually not? So I want you to speak on those things that people believe that this is what's going to get me a successful, long-lasting, fulfilled marriage. Yeah. But in actuality, they actually don't. I want you to talk about that.
Yeah, okay. I know we've been talking about a lot of sex, and some people are like, man, can we talk about something else? But I have to talk about sex again one more time. One of the greatest myths, I would say, regarding marriage is that the best way to keep a strong relationship is with a strong, let me not say strong, it's with a spicy, flamboyant, you know, over-the-top sex life. And a lot of people who don't value marriage, right, or the importance of it, a lot of times are living, you know, sexually with their partners, with their, you know, significant others, and really just kind of experiencing all this thing, and are assuming that this is what makes a good marriage. And it's so funny when you read, like, not that anybody actually reads these, but like the Cosmopolitan or whatever that magazine is called, or a lot of these magazines, it's always about sex, never about communication. Never about who's going to take out the trash, who's going to work on the finances, right? Who's going to say, I'm sorry? How do we deal with conflict? Like, these are things that me and my wife talk about in our class. Like, how do we deal with conflict resolution? You're not going to have a perfect marriage, right? You're going to have bumps. You're going to have, how do you deal with it in a healthy way? How do you communicate with one another what you need, right? These are all things that make a beautiful marriage that's going to last throughout, you know, the test. Last through the test of time. But there's this great myth that one of the greatest parts of marriage is sex. Now, let me clarify. Sex is important in a marriage, very important. It's a beautiful thing. It's a blessing, right? to every married couple, okay? And I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to, whatever. I'm really mean
Yeah.
that. It's a
Yeah.
powerful thing, but people view it as like a pie, right? And the three things that make up a marriage is like communication, love, and sex. And I can guarantee you the pie that's for sex is way too big. The average couple has sex 6 times a month on average, right? I know somebody's like, well, I have it every day. You're lying. Anyways, right? But like, the average couple has it, 6 times, maybe more a month, from 10 or less to 45 minutes during the time. It only makes up a small margin of your life. And people are going in saying, I know it's going to work out because we have great sexual chemistry. Are you nuts? Are you nuts? If sexual chemistry you think is going to keep your marriage, I guarantee it'll be the first thing to break it. Because the moment somebody else gives you that same sexual attention, some flirtatious motion happens between a coworker or something of that nature, you find somebody else physically attractive, you'll be leaning and moving in that direction in a matter of time. Or the moment, and here's the thing, sex looks different throughout a marriage. Another myth, I have to say this, talking about sex again. The world says your best sex only happens in your first 1 to 3 years. That is a lie. Statistically, your best sex is going to happen between the year 14 and 16 mark. But they'll make you believe that it's all awesome fireworks at the beginning, and then later on it's going to gradually get worse. That's a lie, because the thing about sex is it's about communication. Again, I got to talk about this because it was trash. Jada Pinkett Smith was in the Red Table Talk, and she was saying foolishness. Like, yeah, when it comes down to finding a good man or having whatever, they got to know you, know everything about you, know your every move, exactly what you need, right when you want it. That's how you know it's right. That's insane. Women change all the time. You feel differently throughout the day. Guys do likewise. And I have to communicate with my spouse what she needs, because what she might need in year 3 might look different in year 14. But as we're constantly communicating and learning each other's bodies, that's the beautiful part about purity, is that I get a chance to learn you, right? You get a chance to learn me, and we have a lifetime to learn each other's body and explore each other in a beautiful, awesome way, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those great myths. Like, it's almost like, and here's the thing, let's look at some more statistics. People aren't getting divorced because of lack of spice in their sex life. That's a myth. It's not. Usually, I'll tell you, one of the statistically the highest reasons for divorce is actually finances. Believe it or not. It's not sex.
Yeah.
But the world would make you believe that's that. Another myth about sensuality in a marriage is that people will argue that you may need to add a third party, right? That could be pornography, that could be another person to spice things up. A lot of these celebrities who are telling you to spice things up are in their 4th and 5th marriage. Okay, like that's too much heartache. There's too much money expended, too much time. We want to put our efforts and our energy and cast our lots into something that's going to be sustainable for the long run. And putting all your eggs in the sex basket, yeah, it's just not going to be no good. So I think that's I could talk more about certain myths about marriage, but one of the big ones is, so I can just clarify it, so I can put it out there practically, is that people get divorced because of their sex life. That is not the main cause statistically of why people get divorced. Secondly, that your best sex will be in your first few years. That is a lie. As you grow to learn your partner and your love for each other begins to grow deeper, you start to see them in different ways. The way they show you forgiveness, the way they clean things for you. You're like, I should have cleaned that, but they do it for you. You're not just having sex. It's not just this physical act of motion. No, that you are making love to somebody you actually love. And that's going to only increase over time. And that should be an encouragement and hope for anybody who's watching this who goes, well, I'm year 3. Or I'm year 1, it's going to go down here from. That's a lie. It's only going to get better if you promise to communicate and pursue your wife, pursue your husband, pursue what makes them feel love. Now, sorry, I don't want to go over time. I have to say this. The world will never be able to have sex or make love the way that God has had it for the church. They can only fabricate it and try to create this like synthetic version of it. But what we have in the purity of a relationship in a marriage, man, the world wishes they could do that. They're having sex. We are making love. And I'm not trying to mean that in a religious sense, but I'm saying that there's something powerful when you've made up your mind to be with one person, to be in covenant with one person, to love fully and be fully known by one person. And when those two individuals come together to have sex, it is mind-blowing. The world wishes they had that. They wish they did.
Wow, that's deep. Let me just ask you this. And just given those main points too, what are the main things that people should actually focus on to build a healthy marriage? And of course we're talking to, I mean, people that are married, people that aren't married, people that are single, people that are dating. But just to put it straightforward with just some quick points that people could be able to say, okay, I get it. What are just let's 3 points that you could say that is really good for people to actually build their marriage on and have a successful marriage?
Yeah, I'm gonna say number one is who's around you. If we're in the topic of talking about purity, if you want to have a strong marriage, or if you're single, you're dating somebody, you want a strong relationship, that's walking in a place of purity. Who is in your ear? Who are your homeboys and who are your homegirls? That's going to radically change, right, the way you live life with your significant other. Like the dudes I kicked it with, the Martys, the Johnnies, the Johns, the AJs. I've been going all day about, the Dez's and everybody else, and in between. I'm sure I'm missing a ton, but I've walked with people that walk in purity. So if I'm sitting sideways, when I get around them, I'm sitting up straight now, right? The people around me were walking in a way that didn't encourage me to live a corrupt life. I talked to a lot of people who've tried crack cocaine or got into marijuana or hooked on cigarettes, whatever. It ain't because they just randomly one day went somewhere. No, they were around some people that looked like they were having a good time. They got hooked on it, and now they're stuck on it. But if you're around a good community of brothers and sisters who are walking in a place of holiness and purity, dude, you're going to be more apt to walk in that way in your marriage and in your relationship. If there's people in your life that is going to be a hindrance to your marriage, right, who are always speaking negative or drawing you into things that are going to make you walk into a place of bondage, they got to go. It ain't personal. It don't mean I don't love you. It don't mean I ain't going to ever pray for you or we ain't going to ever connect in the future. But I can't have you tainting this good thing that now God has given me, right? So number one, who do you kick it with? Because this is a perfect example. Like even back in the day, as I was still kind of growing to be more connected with God, I wasn't a person who really used profanity. It just wasn't a thing for me. I know other people may have. It's just not language I really use. Obviously not now, but like back in the day, I just didn't really use profanity. What was interesting was the dudes around me, because I was just the way I talked, I would notice when they came around me, they just didn't use it. We were laughing our heads off, having a blast. But because of just the kind of atmosphere I brought, we were able to have a good time, laugh, joke, and profanity wasn't a part of it just because of my company being around them. And that's one. Okay, so the second thing I would say of a way to kind of encourage couples to walk in purity, I kind of said this earlier, so it's kind of regurgitating, is having those boundaries and being able to be with somebody who is willing to wait. Being in a relationship with somebody who loves you enough to go, I'm willing to wait, because you're worth that much.
Yeah,
you're worth that. Here's the thing: you can put stuff in the microwave. Man, you try to microwave McDonald's French fries, they turn into packing peanuts, right? You put those bad boys in the air fryer, it's gonna take a little longer, but they're going to at least be edible. You know what I'm saying? Like there's ways, it's like eating food at Panera Bread where it's microwave, going to a 5-star restaurant. When things are slow roasted, there's just something juicier, there's something better, more tasty, more satisfying about something that has been taking the time to cultivate, to mature. There's just something beautiful about that. And I would just say you want to be with somebody who's loving you enough, who's like, I'm willing to wait the long haul.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So what would you say the third one would be? This would be the last one.
And this is just walking in purity, right? Go ahead.
No, this is for building. things that you would tell people to have a successful marriage? Like, what
Yeah.
are some building things you want to have?
This is going to be a real spoiler alert right here. So everybody hold tight, right? Here we go. Jesus.
Yeah,
That really is number one,
yeah,
right? That's kind of a given,
Yeah.
but there's something so powerful about knowing that I'm not just doing the right thing so I don't get caught. That's a difference, right? I'm walking in purity so I don't get in trouble, or so I don't have a kid out of wedlock, or so that I don't catch a disease. Those don't really work that long, because eventually you get excited enough, right? Those hormones get to pumping, and all reason goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
So that's not going to last, right? It's one of those things. There was something interesting that Joseph did when he was being pursued by a young lady in the Bible. She tells him to sleep with him, right? I mean, for him to sleep with her. And he doesn't say, I can't do this, I don't want to get caught. He says, I can't do this because how could I do such a thing and sin against God? There's a level of accountability I have as a man of God. It doesn't make me prideful, pious, or self-righteous, but there's an accountability that I have with God that I can't live any kind of way. I can't treat my wife any kind of way, call her out of her name, treat her disrespectfully. Like you mentioned before, she's a daughter of God. I'm held accountable to a higher power, right?
yeah,
And when Jesus is the center of your relationship, the beautiful thing is the Bible says those who have called on the name of the Lord have been sealed by his Spirit, the Holy Spirit, the third person in the Trinity, right? The Holy Spirit living inside of you convicts you. That's not his only job, but he convicts you. And the things I used to do, I don't do anymore. I can't even do them anymore because God is living inside of me, teaching me, showing me, maturing me, helping me to grow in my love for my wife. And it's just something, I can't do that by my own will and intuition. If you look at how many divorces there are because of infidelity and how many broken relationships there are because of sexual promiscuity, I can tell you right now, it's not because of willpower, right? As a believer, I get a boost, okay? I get some... I get like a steroid boost, right? A supernatural ability to walk in holiness, not by my own power, not by my own might, but by the might that comes from God. It helps me to love my wife. Yeah. Something else that happens too, that being in direct connection with God helps me to walk in my forgiveness, because as perfect as my wife is, and she's pretty much perfect, right? She's going to make mistakes, right? She's going to have flaws and drop the ball in some way, as well as I do, obviously, probably a lot more than her, right? But as that happens, it helps me to forgive, to love, to show grace. And it's a very powerful thing about having Jesus in your relationship, that conviction is involved, right? You might have went the whole day, didn't tell your spouse, didn't tell your husband, I love you, right? You done went the whole day. And for the average person, they can go watch Netflix, take a nap. But when you got the Holy Spirit, there's this picking that happens. And you go, hey, did you tell your wife you love her? Did you notice this about her? She kind of changed the way, her hair looked. You should probably say something. There's just this unction that because God loves marriage. Like he's crazy about marriage. He's crazy about the relationships that happen, even those who are seriously dating, right? He's crazy about that, right? Those who are engaged. He's crazy about that. And when you have Christ as the foundation and the roof, you got to have him at the bottom and at the top. What happens is there's this supernatural advantage that you're giving that gives you a supernatural ability to love your wife in the way that she deserves to be loved. Wow. That you can love your husband in the way that they deserve to be loved, because the power of God is propelling you, is pushing you forward to do it in that way.
Wow, that is good. That is good. It's been so much good, amazing gems that's been definitely dropped throughout this whole entire podcast. I know myself, definitely have to rewatch it myself and take some notes on it. Man, thank you so much, Jawan, for being able to come in and, bless us with a lot of wisdom and knowledge that you have. It's definitely got me thinking. It's definitely given me a lot of good things that I can put into practice. I hope that it also help everybody else that is listening. This is our mission, once again, is to impact people's life, man. We truly enjoy seeing people, live better to the fullness and live in freedom and enjoy their life.
Yeah.
So quick question. I know that we can find you on social media. What's your Facebook?
Yeah, I feel so embarrassed when I go, hey, yo, follow me on this. You ain't got to follow me. You may just want to message me, right? If you're curious about the merge class that me and my wife does, Juwan Glenn.
Jawan
That's it.
Glenn,
Juwan
perfect.
Glenn. You're going to see this ugly mug on the picture, okay? And you can message me. If you're a young lady and you feel more comfortable, you can message my wife. Her name is Jessica Glenn, right? Message her, and we'll let you know in the next time that we are doing the merge class. And that'll be an awesome resource for anybody who wants to grow in their dating life with a particular individual as they're being engaged,
Yeah,
or in that first part of their marriage. I
that's
think
good.
that'd be a cool resource for you. So, yep, you can Facebook, Instagram.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, man, just once again, I want to re-implement the morning gym. I guess you could say the starter gym of today, because I really want you to just really remember that you may not be perfect, but you are perfect for someone, and someone is perfect for you. So I don't want you to think that who you are isn't good enough, because who you are is good enough, and you will meet a mate that would love you in spite of whatever flaws that you may feel that you have. You don't have to, pretty much put whatever that your actual good gifts or your strengths up for a person that like you. Just truly be you. And that's just the amazing thing that I want to leave you off with. I believe that it would take so much weight off of trying to be perfect, because somebody is looking at you like you are perfect just the way that you are. So also, once again, you guys can follow us on Instagram at More Than Just Dating. We've been getting a lot of direct messages, a lot of questions, a lot of response to the show. So thank you. We've been enjoying it. We're definitely looking to get more questions sent in. Ask us what you would actually want us to talk about even more, so we can also be able to have even a segment just talking about a lot of questions and concerns that y'all may have. You can also follow and watch us on YouTube at It's More Than Just Dating. I'm about to definitely sound like a YouTuber with this. Please subscribe, click
Yes,
the
sir.
notification
Yes,
bell,
sir.
all of that good stuff. Leave any comments that
Yeah,
you
compliments. You had it right. Yeah, compliments.
compliments. We'll take that in comments for sure. Keep it 100. And also, once again, we're on all podcast platforms under It's More Than Just Dating. So if you need to find out where we're at, we're everywhere. Just type in It's More Than Just Dating on any website. You're going to find us. So we
Yes.
appreciate y'all. Thank you so much, and y'all have a blessed day. Peace.